The ship's engines hummed quietly as Dr. Maya Collins pressed her face against the small window. Below them, the planet Kepler 442b stretched out like a green and brown puzzle. After 3 years of traveling through space, they were finally here. First time seeing an alien world up close? Captain Jake Morrison asked, walking up behind her. Maya nodded. It's beautiful. The trees look almost like Earth trees, but those purple leaves? I've never seen anything like it, Jake smiled. Wait until you meet the locals. The Varric are something else entirely. Maya had studied everything they knew about the Varric during the long journey. They looked like giant wolves that walked on 2 legs with thick fur and sharp claws. But they were smart, very smart. They had built cities and machines. They had art and music. They were the first alien species humanity had found that could talk to them as equals. The landing was smooth. Their ship, the Horizon's Edge, touched down in a clearing near the main Varric city. Maya could see tall buildings made of stone and metal rising above the purple-leafed forest. Smoke came from chimneys and she could see Varric moving around in the distance. Remember, Jake said as they prepared to leave the ship, we're here to make friends, not conquer. We want to trade knowledge and technology. Be respectful. Maya grabbed her medical kit and scanning equipment. As the ship's chief scientist, she was most interested in learning about Varric biology and how they lived. She also brought gifts. Earth music, pictures of human cities, and some of their best medical supplies. The first meeting went better than anyone had hoped. The Varric were curious about humans. They were tall, taller than any human, with gray and brown fur covering their bodies. Their faces looked like wolves, but their eyes showed intelligence and interest. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but their hands ended in claws that could pull back into their fingers. Alpha Grex was their leader. He was the biggest Varric Maya had ever seen, with scars across his face and arms that told stories of many battles. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. Humans, he said in their language, which they had learned from radio signals, you are smaller than we expected, but you traveled far to reach us. This shows courage. We come in peace, Jake replied. We want to learn from each other. The talks went on for hours. The Varric showed them their city, their technology, and their art. Maya was amazed by how advanced they were. Their medicine was different from human medicine, but it worked well for their species. Their machines were powered by crystals that grew naturally on their planet. But Maya noticed something strange. All the Varric they met were adults. She saw no children or young ones anywhere. Where are your young? She asked Alpha Grex during a break in the talks. The big Varric's expression changed. His ears went back against his head and he growled low in his throat. Young ones who are strong join us when they are ready. Those who are weak do not matter. Maya wanted to ask more, but Jake gave her a look that said to drop the subject. They were here to build friendship, not to argue about how the Varric raised their children. On their 3rd day on the planet, Maya went for a walk in the forest near their landing site. She wanted to collect samples of the purple-leafed plants and maybe find some small animals to study. She walked alone, enjoying the strange beauty of the alien forest. That's when she heard the sound. It was a whimper, like a hurt animal might make. Maya followed the sound deeper into the trees. In a small clearing, she found him. He was young, she could tell that right away. He was smaller than the adult Varric, maybe the size of a large human man. His fur was lighter than the adult's, more brown than gray. He was thin, too thin. His ribs showed through his fur, and his eyes looked hollow with hunger. When he saw Maya, he scrambled backward, but he moved slowly, like he was weak or hurt. Hey there, Maya said softly, the way she might talk to a scared dog back on Earth. I'm not going to hurt you. The young Varric, just a teenager by the look of him, stared at her with wide, frightened eyes. He said something in the Varric language that Maya didn't understand. Maya slowly reached into her pack and pulled out some of the food she had brought for her walk. It was just a protein bar, but the young Varric's nose twitched when he smelled it. Are you hungry? Maya asked, holding out the food. It's okay. You can have it. She took a step closer, then another. The young Varric watched her every move, but he didn't run. Maya could see that he was desperate. She was only a few feet away when everything went wrong. The hunger and fear in the young Varric's eyes suddenly turned to panic. Maybe Maya had moved too fast, or maybe he thought she was going to hurt him. With a cry that was half howl and half scream, he lunged at her. His teeth were sharp, sharper than any Earth animal's. They went deep into Maya's forearm, right through her jacket and into the muscle below. The pain was incredible. Maya cried out and tried to pull away, but his bite was strong. Then, just as suddenly as he had attacked, he let go. The young Varric stared at the blood on Maya's arm with horror in his eyes. He made a sound that might have been an apology, then turned and ran into the deeper forest. Maya sat down hard on the ground, holding her bleeding arm. The bite was deep and she would need medical attention soon. But as she looked at the blood, she wasn't angry. She was sad. The young Varric had been so scared, so hungry. And now he was alone in the forest again, probably thinking he was a monster for biting the strange alien who had tried to help him. Maya wrapped her arm in a bandage from her medical kit and made her way back to the ship. She would need antibiotics and proper treatment for the bite. But more than that, she couldn't stop thinking about the frightened, hungry eyes of the young Varric. When she told Jake and the medical team what had happened, they were upset. "You can't go wandering off alone anymore," Jake said firmly. "These aliens might seem civilized, but they're still predators. That young one could have killed you." "He was starving," Maya replied. "He was scared and alone. There's got to be a reason why he's not with the others." "The reason doesn't matter," said Lieutenant Ben Carter, their security officer. "What matters is that he's dangerous. If you see him again, call for backup immediately." But Maya couldn't forget those eyes. As she lay in her bed that night, her bandaged arm throbbing with pain, she made a decision. She was going to find the young Varric again, not to hurt him or capture him, but to understand why he was alone. And maybe, if she was very careful and very lucky, she could help him. Maya waited 2 days before she went back into the forest. Her arm was healing well, but it still hurt when she moved it too quickly. The medical team had given her strong antibiotics to prevent infection from the young Varric's bite. "Where are you going?" Jake asked when he saw her packing supplies into her backpack. "Just to collect more plant samples," Maya lied. She felt bad about not telling him the truth, but she knew Jake would stop her if he knew what she really planned to do. This time, Maya brought more food, real meat from their ship's food supplies, water, and her complete medical kit. She also brought a small scanner that could check for injuries or illness without touching the patient. She found the same clearing where she had first met the young Varric, but he wasn't there. Maya left some food on a fallen log and waited nearby, hidden behind some trees. Hours passed. Maya was starting to think the young Varric had moved far away when she heard branches breaking. She stayed very still and watched as he came into the clearing. He looked worse than before. His fur was dirty and matted, and he moved like every step hurt him. When he saw the food, he looked around carefully, then grabbed it and started eating like he hadn't had a meal in days. Maya waited until he finished eating, then stepped out from behind the trees. The young Varric saw her and froze, pieces of meat still in his mouth. "Hello again," Maya said softly. "I brought you more food." The young Varric made a low growling sound, but he didn't run. Maya could see that he was sick. His nose was running and his breathing sounded harsh. "You're not well," Maya said, taking a slow step forward. "I'm a doctor. I can help you." She reached into her pack and pulled out a bottle of water and some medicine. The young Varric watched her every move, but he seemed too tired to be scared. "My name is Maya," she said, pointing to herself. "Maya, what's your name?" The young Varric tilted his head. After a long moment, he pointed to himself and said something in his language. It sounded like Scarl. "Scarl?" Maya repeated. "That's a good name." Scarl seemed surprised that she had tried to say his name. He took a step closer to her, and Maya felt hopeful. Maybe this time would be different. But as she reached out to offer him the water bottle, something changed in Scarl's eyes. Maybe it was the sudden movement, or maybe he remembered biting her before and felt guilty. Whatever the reason, fear and panic took over. With a cry that was louder and more desperate than before, Scarl jumped at Maya. This time, his teeth found her shoulder, going right through her jacket and shirt. The pain was worse than the first bite because Scarl was bigger and stronger than she had remembered. But this attack was different. As Scarl bit down, Maya could feel his claws scraping across her back, tearing through her clothes and leaving deep scratches. She fell to the ground with Scarl on top of her, and for a moment she thought he might actually kill her. Then Scarl suddenly went limp and collapsed beside her. He was breathing hard and making small whimpering sounds. Maya realized that the attack had used up what little energy he had left. Maya sat up, bleeding from her shoulder and back. Scarl was lying next to her, too weak to move. His eyes were closed and she could see that he had a fever. "You're really sick, aren't you?" Maya said, pressing her hand against her bleeding shoulder. That's why you attacked me. You're scared and sick and you don't know what else to do. She was reaching for her medical supplies when she heard Lieutenant Ben Carter's voice shouting her name. He must have followed her when he realized she had left the ship. Dr. Collins, where are you? Over here, Maya called back, then immediately regretted it. Ben was a good man, but he was a soldier first. When he saw Scarl had attacked her again, he would want to protect her. Ben came running into the clearing with his weapon drawn. When he saw Maya bleeding and Scarl lying on the ground, his face went hard. Get away from it, Ben ordered, pointing his weapon at Scarl. That thing attacked you twice. I'm not letting it happen again. Don't shoot him. Maya moved to put herself between Ben and Scarl. He's sick, Ben. He's just a kid who's sick and scared. He's a dangerous predator, Ben said firmly. Look what he did to you. You're bleeding all over. Maya looked down at herself. Her shoulder was bleeding badly, and she could feel blood running down her back from the claw marks. She probably looked terrible. He's dying, Maya said. Look at him, Ben, really look. He can barely breathe. He's starving and sick, and he's all alone out here. He's not attacking because he's mean. He's attacking because he's terrified. Ben kept his weapon pointed at Scarl, but Maya could see doubt in his eyes. Scarl did look pitiful lying there, too weak to even lift his head. The captain's orders were clear, Ben said. If this thing attacked you again, I was supposed to eliminate the threat. I won't let you hurt him, Maya said firmly. She knelt down next to Scarl and put her hand on his head. His fur was hot with fever. He's just a child, Ben. He's an alien predator that's attacked you twice. He's a child who needs help. Ben and Maya stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Ben lowered his weapon slightly. Fine, he said. But I'm calling for a medical team and a containment unit. If you want to help it, we do it safely back at the ship. Maya nodded. She could work with that. When they got back to the ship, Jake was furious. You went back out there alone after that thing attacked you? He shouted. And now you want to bring it aboard our ship? He has a name, Maya said as the medical team treated her wounds. It's Scarl, and yes, I want to help him. It bit you twice, Maya, twice. How many times does it have to hurt you before you understand that it's dangerous? Maya looked through the window at the containment unit where Scarl lay unconscious. The medical team had given him fluids and antibiotics, and his breathing was already better. He bit me because he's scared and sick, Maya said. If we were lost and starving on an alien world, we might do dangerous things too. Jake shook his head. The Varric have made it clear that this, Scarl, is an outcast. Alpha Grex told me that any young Varric who shows weakness is cast out from the pack. They consider him dead already. Maybe that's the problem, Maya said quietly. What do you mean? Maya turned to look at Jake. Maybe the reason Scarl is the way he is has nothing to do with him being dangerous. Maybe it has everything to do with being abandoned by everyone who was supposed to take care of him. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Her shoulder hurt and the scratches on her back burned every time she moved. But more than the physical pain, she was thinking about Scarl. Alpha Grex had called him weak. His own people had thrown him away like garbage. He was alone, sick, and probably thought every living thing in the universe wanted to hurt him. No wonder he bit anyone who came near him. But Maya had seen something in his eyes, both times before he attacked her. It wasn't meanness or evil. It was fear and sadness and a desperate need for someone to care about him. Tomorrow, she decided she would try again. Not because she was stupid or because she didn't understand the danger, but because sometimes the most important thing a person could do was refuse to give up on someone who had been given up on by everyone else, even if it meant getting bitten again. Maya spent 3 days recovering from Scarl's second attack. The bite on her shoulder was deep and needed stitches. The claw marks on her back would leave scars. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was listening to everyone tell her she was making a mistake. You need to accept reality, Jake said during one of his visits to the medical bay. That creature is dangerous. It's attacked you twice. The Varric themselves say it's worthless. Alpha Grex came by this morning, added Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's psychologist. He's very upset that we're keeping Scarl alive. He says humans who coddle weakness are not worthy of alliance with the Varric people. Maya sat up in her medical bed, wincing as the movement pulled at her stitches. So we're supposed to let a sick child die just to make a good impression? He's not a human child, Maya, Dr. Park said gently. He's an alien predator with different instincts and behaviors. You can't apply human emotions to him. But Maya had been thinking about that during her recovery. She had been studying the recordings they had made of Varric society, and she was starting to see patterns that bothered her. The Varric were strong, yes. They were intelligent and had built an impressive civilization. But Maya noticed what was missing from their society just as much as what was there. There were no Varric artists who made beautiful things, just because they enjoyed it. All their art was about war and hunting and showing strength. There were no Varric who studied plants or animals just to learn about them. All their science was focused on making better weapons or finding more resources to take from other groups. Most importantly, there were no Varric who took care of the weak or sick or different. Anyone who couldn't fight was thrown away. I think I know why Scarl was cast out, Maya told Jake on the morning she was cleared to leave the medical bay. And I don't think it's because he's weak. I think it's because he's different, Jake sighed. Maya, please. I'm trying to build a relationship with an entire alien civilization here. I can't let one dangerous outcast ruin that. What if the outcast is the key to understanding them? What do you mean? Maya pulled up the biological scans she had been studying. Look at these brain scans we took while Scarl was unconscious. See this area here? She pointed to a section of the scan that glowed brighter than the rest. This is the part of the brain that controls empathy and emotional bonding. In most adult Varric, this area is much smaller. Jake frowned. So you're saying Scarl is more emotional than normal Varric? I'm saying Scarl has the ability to form emotional connections across species lines. Look at these scans from human children. They show the same brain activity in the same area. But as humans grow up in a healthy society, they learn to control these emotions, not eliminate them. And you think the Varric are eliminating children who show empathy? I think the Varric are throwing away the part of themselves that could make them truly great, Maya said. And I think Scarl represents something they've forgotten about their own evolution. That afternoon, Maya went to see Scarl in the containment unit. He was awake now, sitting in the corner and staring at the walls. When he saw her, he pressed himself further back as if trying to disappear. Maya sat down outside the containment field and just looked at him. Her shoulder still hurt, and she could feel the bandages on her back pulling at her skin, but she wasn't angry. "Hello, Scarl," she said softly. Scarl looked at her bandages and made a low whining sound. Maya realized he felt bad about hurting her. "It's okay," she said. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me. You were scared." She reached slowly into her pocket and pulled out a small device, a music player loaded with gentle human songs. She set it down near the containment field and pressed play. The soft music filled the room. Scarl tilted his head listening. He had never heard anything like human music before. "It's pretty, isn't it?" Maya said. "We make music when we're happy or sad or when we want to share feelings with other people." Scarl crept a little closer to the containment field. The music seemed to calm him. For the next hour, Maya just sat there with Scarl, sharing music and speaking softly. She told him about Earth, about human families, about how human children were protected and cared for even when they made mistakes. When Lieutenant Ben Carter came to check on her, he found them sitting peacefully together with the music playing softly. "Any problems?" Ben asked quietly. Maya shook her head. "He's not aggressive when he's not scared or sick." "Look at him, Ben, really look." Ben did look, and Maya could see his expression change. Instead of a dangerous predator, Scarl looked like what he really was. A lonely, frightened teenager who had been abandoned by everyone who should have cared for him. "The kid's been through hell," Ben said softly. "Yes, he has, and everyone who meets him just assumes he's evil because he's scared enough to bite." Ben was quiet for a moment. "You know, my little brother used to bite people when he was scared. My parents took him to doctors and therapists, and they figured out he had anxiety problems. Once they started treating that, the biting stopped." Maya looked at Ben with surprise. "You never told me you had a brother." "He died in a car accident when he was 16, Ben said. "But before that, he was the kindest kid you'd ever meet. He just got scared sometimes and didn't know how else to deal with it." Ben looked at Scarl again. "What are you going to do?" Maya stood up and walked to the control panel for the containment field. "I'm going to do something that might be stupid, but I think it's right." "Maya, wait." But Maya had already deactivated the containment field. The invisible barrier between her and Scarl disappeared. Scarl looked up in surprise. He could leave now if he wanted to. He could attack her again. He could run. Instead, he just sat there staring at Maya. "I trust you," Maya said, extending her hand toward him. I know you've bitten me twice. I know you're scared, but I'm going to offer you my hand one more time, because I believe you're better than the fear that makes you bite." Scarl looked at her outstretched hand. Maya could see the conflict in his eyes, the fear that told him to run or fight, and something else, something gentler that wanted to trust her. Ben had his hand on his weapon, ready to protect Maya if Scarl attacked again, but he didn't draw it. He was giving Scarl a chance to choose. Slowly, very slowly, Scarl moved toward Maya's outstretched hand. When he was close enough, he stopped and looked into her eyes. Then, instead of biting, he did something that amazed both Maya and Ben. He gently pressed his nose against Maya's palm, a gesture that, in Varric culture, meant submission, trust, and the request to be accepted into a pack. Maya smiled and very gently petted Scarl's head. For the first time since she had met him, he wasn't afraid. "Good boy," she whispered. "It's going to be okay now." But even as Maya felt the joy of finally connecting with Scarl, she knew their problems were just beginning. Alpha Grex and the other Varric leaders were already angry about humans coddling weakness. Jake was under pressure to maintain good relations with the Varric government. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Maya wondered what would happen when Scarl was healthy and strong again. Would he still trust her, or would his predator instincts take over? She pushed those worries aside for now. Today, a frightened, abandoned child had chosen trust over fear. That was worth celebrating, no matter what challenges tomorrow might bring. As she sat with Scarl, gently stroking his fur while he listened to human music, Maya realized something important. The real test wasn't whether Scarl would bite her again. The real test was whether the humans in Varric could learn to see strength in compassion, and wisdom in caring for those who were different. She had a feeling that test was going to be much harder than teaching one scared young Varric to trust her. The breakthrough with Scarl happened faster than Maya had expected. Within a week of their peaceful contact, he was following her around the ship like a loyal dog. But Maya quickly learned that Scarl was much more than just a tamed animal. "Watch this," Maya said to Lieutenant Ben Carter as they sat in the ship's laboratory. She placed a complex puzzle box in front of Scarl, the kind used to test problem-solving skills in highly intelligent species. Most humans took several minutes to figure out the puzzle. Scarl studied it for 30 seconds, then began manipulating the various sliding pieces and rotating sections. Within 2 minutes, the box opened with a soft click. "Impressive," Ben said, "but lots of animals are good at puzzles." Maya smiled and pulled out a tablet computer. She showed Scarl a simple drawing program and demonstrated how to use it. Then she handed him the stylus. What Scarl drew wasn't just random lines or simple shapes. He drew a picture of the forest where Maya had first found him, but not as it was now. He drew it with small shelters hidden in the trees, with water collection systems, and with what looked like gardens of edible plants. "He's showing me something," Maya said, excitement growing in her voice. "Scarl, did you build these things? In the forest?" Scarl nodded eagerly and began drawing more pictures. He showed Maya hidden caves where he had stored tools and supplies. He drew other young Varric, outcasts like himself, who had been living in the forest and working together to survive. "My God," Maya whispered. "There's a whole community of them out there. The weak ones that the Varric threw away. They're not dying in the wilderness. They're building their own society." Over the next few days, Scarl began to trust Maya enough to communicate more complex ideas. Using a combination of drawings, simple Varric words, and gestures, he told her things that amazed her. The outcast Varric had developed new ways of farming that didn't damage the forest. They had created medicines from plants that the regular Varric didn't know about. Most importantly, they had learned to work together instead of fighting for dominance like the main Varric society. "They're evolving," Maya told Jake during their daily briefing. "While the regular Varric are stuck in their warrior culture, the outcasts are developing cooperation, innovation, and empathy. They're becoming something new." Jake looked worried. "That's great, Maya, but we have bigger problems. Alpha Grex is getting more upset every day that we're keeping Scarl. He's threatening to end all diplomatic relations if we don't get rid of him soon." "What does he mean by get rid of him?" "I think you know what he means," Jake said quietly. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "We're not going to let them kill him, Jake. I'm trying to avoid that. But Alpha Grex says that as long as we protect weak individuals, His people can't respect us as potential allies. He's starting to convince other Varek leaders that humans are weak too. That afternoon, Maya was working with Scarl in the laboratory when the ship's alarm started blaring. Ben Carter's voice came over the intercom. All personnel to emergency stations. We have a medical crisis in the Varek city. Maya ran to the bridge with Scarl close behind her. On the main screen, she could see chaos in the Varek city. Adult Varek were collapsing in the streets and others were carrying the sick into buildings. What's happening? Maya asked. Some kind of plague, Jake replied grimly. It started this morning and it's spreading fast. Alpha Grex is asking for our help, but our medical team can't figure out what's causing it. Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her medical scanner readings. It's affecting their respiratory system and nervous system at the same time. I've never seen anything like it. Our medicines don't seem to help at all. Maya studied the data coming in from the city. The plague was moving through the Varek population like wildfire. Strong, healthy adults were becoming sick within hours of exposure. Then she noticed something strange in the data. Ben, are you seeing this? The plague isn't affecting all Varek equally. Look at these numbers. Ben studied the medical readings. You're right. Some Varek seem to be completely immune, while others are getting very sick very fast. Scarl had been watching the screens with growing excitement. Suddenly, he began making urgent noises and pulling at Maya's sleeve. He ran to the drawing tablet and began sketching frantically. What he drew made Maya's heart race. It was a picture of the hidden outcast community in the forest. But in this picture, none of the outcasts were sick. They were healthy and active while the main city was full of sick Varek. Scarl, Maya said urgently, are your people, the outcasts in the forest, are they immune to this plague? Scarl nodded vigorously and began drawing again. This time he showed Maya plants and roots that the outcasts ate regularly. Plants that the main Varek society considered weak food and refused to touch. Maya grabbed the tablet and ran to Dr. Park. Lisa, look at this. Scarl is showing us that the outcast Varek aren't getting sick, and he's showing us plants they eat that the regular Varek don't. Dr. Park studied the drawings. You think these plants provide some kind of immunity? I think the outcasts accidentally developed immunity by eating a more varied diet, Maya said. The main Varek only eat meat from certain animals because they think eating plants makes them weak. But the outcasts eat whatever they can find. That's actually brilliant, Dr. Park said slowly. A more diverse diet could have exposed them to natural compounds that protect against this plague. Maya turned to Jake. We need to get samples of these plants and test them immediately. And we need to contact the outcasts in the forest. Jake shook his head. Maya, Alpha Grex has forbidden any contact with the outcasts. If we go against his wishes now, while his people are dying because they rejected the very individuals who might be able to save them, Maya said firmly. Jake, this isn't just about Scarl anymore. This is about an entire civilization that might be destroyed because they're too proud to accept help from those they consider weak. The argument might have continued, but at that moment Alpha Grex himself appeared on the communication screen. The big Varek leader looked terrible. His fur was matted with sweat and he was breathing heavily. Humans, he said in a voice that was much weaker than before. Many of my people are sick. Our strongest warriors are falling. Can you help us? Jake stepped forward. We're trying, Alpha Grex. Our doctors are working on it. Good, Alpha Grex said. Then his eyes fell on Scarl, who was visible on the screen behind Maya. The Alpha's expression hardened even through his obvious illness. But first you must destroy the weak one. My advisors say the plague is punishment for allowing weakness to live among us. Maya felt anger rising in her chest. Alpha Grex, that weak one might be the key to saving your people. Impossible, Alpha Grex growled. The weak cannot save the strong. It is against the natural order. Then maybe, Maya said quietly, it's time to question what you think you know about the natural order. Alpha Grex glared at her through the screen. You have one day, humans. Find a cure for our people or we will consider you enemies. And the first thing we will do to enemies is destroy that abomination you protect. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Well, Ben said dryly. No pressure. Maya looked down at Scarl, who was still clutching the drawing tablet. He had been drawing during the entire conversation with Alpha Grex. When Maya saw what he had drawn this time, her breath caught in her throat. It was a picture of himself and Maya, standing together in front of the main Varek city. But in the picture, The city was healthy and whole again, and standing beside Alpha Grex were other outcasts. Varric, who had been rejected but had returned to save their people. "You want to go back, don't you?" Maya said softly. "Even after everything they did to you, you want to help them." Scarl nodded solemnly. Maya looked around at her crewmates. Jake with his diplomatic worries, Ben with his protective instincts, Dr. Park with her scientific curiosity. They were all looking at her, waiting for her to decide what to do next. She thought about the scared, starving young Varric who had bitten her twice. She thought about the gentle, intelligent being he had become when someone finally showed him kindness, and she thought about the choice he was making now, to risk everything to save the people who had thrown him away. "All right," Maya said. "Let's go save a civilization." The journey to the hidden outcast community took 3 hours through dense forest. Scarl led the way, with Maya, Ben, and Dr. Park following behind. They carried medical equipment, food supplies, and most importantly, sample containers for the plants Scarl had drawn. "Are you sure about this?" Ben asked Maya as they walked. "If Alpha Grex finds out we went to the outcast without permission, Alpha Grex will be dead within 2 days if we don't find a cure," Maya replied. "And so will most of his people." The outcast community was bigger than Maya had imagined. Hidden in a network of caves and tree shelters, nearly 50 young Varric lived together in a society completely different from the main city. Where the main Varric city was built on dominance and competition, the outcast community worked on cooperation and sharing. When Scarl appeared with 3 humans, the other outcasts were nervous but curious. Unlike the adult Varric in the city, these young ones didn't immediately assume the humans were threats. An older outcast, probably in her early 20s, approached them. She was smaller than the adult Varric Maya had met, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I am Nira," she said in careful English. "Scarl told us about you, Maya human. You are the one who chose not to abandon him." "Yes," Maya said, "and now we need your help. There's a plague in the main city and we think you might have the cure." Nira nodded grimly. "We know about the sickness. We can see the smoke from their funeral fires from here. But none of you are sick," Dr. Park observed, scanning the healthy outcasts with her medical equipment. "We eat differently than the city Varric," Nira explained. "They say we are weak because we eat plants and roots as well as meat. But these plants..." She led them to a garden area where dozens of different species grew together. "These plants have kept us strong when the meat was scarce." Dr. Park immediately began taking samples while Maya and Ben helped document everything. Within hours, they had identified 3 specific plants that contained natural compounds similar to antiviral and immune-boosting medicines humans used. "This is incredible," Dr. Park said as she analyzed the samples. "These plants work together to create a natural defense against the plague virus. The outcasts have been accidentally immunizing themselves for years just by eating a varied diet. But creating enough medicine for the entire city would take time they didn't have." That's when Scarl surprised everyone again. He began drawing on his tablet, showing Maya a plan. The outcast would return to the city with the humans, bringing fresh supplies of the protective plants. They would help prepare the medicine and distribute it to the sick. Nira shook her head when she saw the plan. "The city Varric will kill us before they let us help them. To them we are already dead." "Not if I'm with you," Maya said firmly. Ben looked at her with concern. "Maya, if this goes wrong, Alpha Grex won't just kill the outcasts. He'll kill us too." Maya looked around at the young Varric. Dozens of intelligent, caring individuals who had been thrown away by their society simply for being different. They were willing to risk their lives to save the people who had rejected them. "Then we better make sure it doesn't go wrong," Maya said. The journey back to the city was tense. The outcasts traveled nervously, many of them returning to a place that had cast them out as children. Maya could see fear in their eyes, but also determination. They carried baskets full of the medicinal plants and their knowledge of how to prepare them. When they reached the city gates, the guards were too sick to stop them effectively. Most of the healthy Varric were caring for the sick, and the city was in chaos. Maya led the group directly to the main medical center, where Alpha Grex lay surrounded by his advisors. The great leader looked terrible. His breathing was labored and his eyes were glazed with fever. When he saw Maya enter with Scarl and the outcasts, Alpha Grex tried to rise from his bed. "Guards," he called weakly. "Kill them. Kill the weak ones before they spread more sickness. But the guards were too sick to respond, and his advisors were more concerned with their own illness than with enforcing old prejudices. Alpha Grex, Maya said calmly. We have the cure for your people, but it comes from the ones you call weak. Impossible, Alpha Grex gasped. The weak cannot save the strong. Nira stepped forward carrying a bowl of medicine prepared from the forest plants. Then let us show you what the weak can do, she said quietly. Maya nodded to Dr. Park, who began distributing the plant medicine to the sickest Varek. Within an hour, the effects were obvious. Varek who had been dying were breathing easier. Their fevers were breaking. Alpha Grex watched in amazement as his people began to recover. When Nira offered him the medicine, he stared at her for a long moment. You were cast out as a child, he said slowly. You should be dead. Yes, Nira replied. But we chose to live differently. We chose to take care of each other instead of abandoning those who were different. And that choice saved us when your strength could not. Alpha Grex looked at the medicine in Nira's hands, then at the outcasts working alongside the humans to help his people. His entire worldview was crumbling around him. I cast you out, he said to Nira. Why do you save me? Before Nira could answer, Skarl stepped forward. The young Varek, who had once been so scared he could only bite now, stood calmly before the leader who had condemned him. In his own language, Skarl said something that Maya couldn't understand. But she could see the impact his words had on Alpha Grex. The great leader's eyes filled with tears. What did he say? Maya asked Nira. He said, because choosing to save someone who hurt you is what makes you truly strong. Nira translated. Alpha Grex took the medicine from Nira's hands and drank it. As he did, Maya saw something change in his eyes. The rigid certainty that had defined him was being replaced by something else, humility, and maybe even wisdom. Over the next few days, as the plague retreated and the Varek city recovered, Maya watched a remarkable transformation. The outcasts didn't return to the forest. Instead, they stayed in the city, working alongside the Varek who had once rejected them. At first, there was tension and suspicion, but as the outcasts continued to help, sharing their knowledge of medicine and farming and cooperation, even the most stubborn Varek began to see them differently. Alpha Grex recovered fully from the plague, but he was a changed leader. In a ceremony that surprised everyone, he publicly acknowledged that the outcasts had saved the Varek people. We thought strength meant never needing help, he announced to the gathered crowd. We thought weakness was anything that made us depend on others. We were wrong. He looked directly at Skarl. The ones we cast out were not weak. They were different. And that difference saved us all. Maya stood with Skarl as Alpha Grex spoke. The young Varek had grown taller and stronger during their time together, but more importantly, he had grown confident and wise. He no longer flinched when others approached him, and he no longer lashed out in fear. After the ceremony, Maya found herself alone with Skarl in the forest clearing where they had first met. It seemed like a lifetime ago that he had bitten her arm in this very spot. So what happens now? She asked him. Skarl looked at her and then at his hands. In careful English that he had been learning, he said, Now I help my people learn new way. Not just strong way, kind way too, Maya smiled. And will you be happy doing that? Skarl thought for a moment, then nodded. Happy to help. Happy to show that different not mean weak. As they walked back toward the city, Maya reflected on everything that had happened. She bore 3 sets of scars now, 2 from Skarl's bites and 1 from his claws. But she also carried something else. The knowledge that sometimes the greatest act of strength was refusing to give up on someone, even after they had hurt you. Captain Jake Morrison had gotten his diplomatic success. The humans and Varek were now allies, working together to explore the galaxy. But more than that, they had helped an entire civilization learn that true strength came not from rejecting those who were different, but from embracing what made them unique. Lieutenant Ben Carter had been right about one thing. Skarl was dangerous. But his danger had never come from being evil or aggressive. His danger came from representing a truth that could change everything, that the ones society throws away might be the very ones who hold the key to its survival. As Maya and Skarl reached the city gates, Maya thought about the choice she had made to offer her hand a 3rd time to someone who had bitten her twice. It had been scary and it had been risky, and everyone had told her she was making a mistake. But sometimes the most important things in life, Friendship, trust, love, and hope required the courage to try again, even after being hurt. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, that third chance could change not just one life, but an entire world. Scarl had stopped being the apex predator cub who bit out of fear. Now he was something much more dangerous to those who believed in the old ways. He was living proof that there was a better way to be strong. And Maya had learned something too. She had discovered that humans' greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons or their ability to conquer other species. Their greatest strength was their stubborn refusal to give up on anyone, even someone who had bitten them twice.